So we met some fantastic folk at the Hand in Hand conference a couple of weekends ago. One of those was Kristin, who, as I remember, was extremely patient because we had so many technical problems on the Friday. You came to talk to us on the Saturday instead. So thank you. But hello, Kristin.
Hello, thanks so much for having me. Really, really good to be here. Yes, isn't technology a wonderful,
Oh,
blissful, blessing that we have? When it goes right, it goes right. When it goes wrong, it's very frustrating.
no, it is. And we had 90 minutes of this isn't going to work. We've got a whole day tomorrow. What's going on? Everything. I like redundancies and backups with technology because of what goes wrong. Every single system redundancy, double redundancy, and backup I have, every single one fails systematically, repeatedly. And we still can't work out to this day why. But hey, we got there in the end.
Yeah, we got there, and it was fantastic to have the opportunity to have a chat with you. And the hand-to-hand conference was absolutely amazing, and still hearing some really great feedback from that.
It was really, really good. It's not like any other conference I've been to. There are a few that stick out as different, I guess. The Gathering for Men in Swindon, that's kind of different too, in its own way. But the hand in hand, I think it's the way they care for all the people who are behind the stands, all the exhibitors. And they were going around really caring. Are you okay? And I watched Ollie, who's one of the guys who leads the team there, and he went from stand to stand. How you doing? Are you okay? You got what you need? Is it all going well? And it's that level of love, compassion, and detail that just blew me away.
Yeah, Helen and Ollie Goldenberg really do have servant hearts, and I just want everyone to not only be happy but to feel blessed, and for the conference to bless them and to bless others. So it's fantastic that they're able to kind of take a step away from their duties, their full-time, jobs and stuff like that, and just because God's really placed it on their heart. So yeah, it's fantastic to be there. We had amazing exhibitors. We had fantastic delegates. The delegates really, I think, came with wanting to know more and just really open hearts. And it was just really great. I did a seminar on the Saturday, and it was really great. It's one of those, sometimes when you do seminars, you just don't know if people are getting it. You don't know if you're pitching it the right way. And it was great to see people just kind of have those light bulb moments throughout the seminar, and come up to me afterwards and say how, wow, that one thing you said, wow, that's really blessed me. That's really made me want to kind of change how I do things. So it's a really encouraging weekend.
It was really, really good. I absolutely adored our time there, despite the tech issues, which we overcame. Now, let's just tackle a few of the more obvious questions, I guess. Bible Society. It sort of sounds like we should know what it is, but can you give us a really simple, basic overview? What is the Bible Society all about?
Wow. So, we do what it says on the tin, I guess. It is all about the Bible and helping folks to engage. We want to equip people with the Bible, help them to see the Bible in a fresh way with their own eyes. I think, previously I've been at Bible Society for 10 years now. And when I first started, I really could see where people kind of could see the Bible Society as an organization that was international, or they kind of had this image of a old lady standing on a street corner handing out Bibles. And we're just so much more than that. Yes, we have an international aspect. We still, we translate the Bible. We work, internationally to help people to have access to the Bible. But here we have Bibles on our shelves, but getting a Bible, in England and Wales is not that hard. But we've got to help them to understand what they're reading. And I think that's a really tricky part for some people. They find it a really difficult book to read, really hard to see how it's relevant to their lives. And we want to help them do that.
I remember someone many years ago was saying they weren't a Christian at the time. They picked up the Quran, they picked up the Bible, and they're reading these books thinking, yeah, I suppose, yeah, might be something good in there. And then when they had actually said, I'm going to follow Jesus Christ, they started reading the Bible and they said, I didn't know this was in here. I've read that already, and now it's like a living thing, and it's jumping off the page. And I remember thinking, it's called the living word for a reason.
Yeah, I can't remember who said this, but I remember someone saying to me that, when you fall in love with someone, you want to know everything about them. You just can't wait to know as much about them as possible. So if you fall in love with Jesus, and what you need to do is learn everything about them, and the best way to do that is to read your Bible. And it's really surprising how many people who are a Christian just don't spend time in God's word. And part of that is because it is difficult. It's not an easy, happy story every time you pick it up. There's difficult things in the Bible, but there's difficult things in our world right now. And I think, the Bible gives us hope, and the Bible points to Him. And so the more we can spend time in the Bible, the better.
I remember, do you remember the horrible history thing? Maybe it's still a thing out there. And it's like bits of history that we don't want to think about. And I remember thinking at the time, yeah, this is all great. You should read the Bible. Because as history goes, there's some harsh stuff in there. But you know what? It's part of history. And I love the fact that all of the Bible tells us is good for teaching. It helps us to be disciplined, and it rebukes us, and it helps us to do better in life. And do you know what? We don't need horrible histories. Just read the Bible. It's much better because it's a good story at the end.
Yeah, I think you're getting ready to quote Psalm 78 there or something. It is, and I think that if we only read the good, like happy stories, we're missing the whole point of the Bible. The Bible fits together in different ways. And, some of the bad, scary, stuff points to the good stuff, and the good stuff points to that, so we've got to see the whole big picture to understand the Bible, and for it to help make sense into our lives as well, because we go through some nasty, yucky, sticky, horrible stuff. And, it's good that we can see that that's happened in the Bible. Jesus weeps, and so do we.
Yes, the shortest verse in the Bible is almost, in some ways, to me, being really careful, it seems like one of the most powerful ones,
Yeah.
because Jesus wept, he weeps, he cries. He was a man with emotion and feeling, and he was designed to be that way. And actually, that means that when I get sad and don't understand it, do you know what? That's okay. Jesus had emotions too, because hey, do you know what? He wept.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, for me, I love the fact that depending on what part of I am in my life, where I am in my life, I can go into my Bible and read my Bible and see something different from it. I remember one time I was going through a really, really difficult time, and I just kept hearing this kind of, read Esther. And I was thinking, I've read Esther, read it quite a few times, actually. I just have, I'd be in a group, or I'd be in a conversation with someone bring up Esther, and I'd see something, and there'd just be these reminders. And I was just like, okay, so I'm getting the message. I need to read it. And I just read it with completely different eyes at that time than I'd read it at another time. And I think that's one of the other beauties of the Bible is, I read the Bible much different now than I did when I was 17. And, sometimes I, probably read the Bible now differently than I did even a year ago. Because, life changes, and what our eyes are seeing and what our hearts need are very different at different times in our life.
I've read some books many times, not the Bible, but other books, and eventually get quite comfortable with them. And they can be really good. I mean, Corrie ten Boom's The Hiding Place. I've read that. I've lost track.
I love that. Oh, that's a
Open
great book.
Doors. Brother Andrew, I don't know. I read it twice in a go once. I've just finished the second reading it in a row. And they never get boring, but some of the stuff I know where it is, and it sort of feels a bit too comfortable, and I almost know what they're going to say, mostly because I've read it so many times. When I read the Bible, it doesn't matter how many times I've read one piece. Isaiah 43 is a bit of scripture that was given to me when I was first becoming a Christian, age 7. And I don't know how many, literally hundreds of times I must have read those few first verses at the start of Isaiah 43. And yet every single time I read it, it never feels old. It never feels tired. It never feels so comfortable that I know what God's trying to say to me. It always feels fresh. And I don't understand that. I can understand it mentally and think, well, God said. I still don't understand how can a few verses of scripture that I read hundreds of times still feed my soul, nurture my heart in a way that I just don't understand.
It's also the beauty of the different translations as well, because I think that sometimes, depending on the translation you read, you see different things. I love how the word dwell, I don't use the word dwell that much in my daily conversation, but reading the word dwell in the Bible and thinking about what that means can really take on such a different meaning than being used, another word being used there. And I think that's the other kind of beauty of the Bible as well, is the different words that are used, different translations. Sometimes the message is what I need for the, that time. And other times, the Good News Bible, just nice, plain, simple, getting right to the point, that's helpful for me. So, I really love having different versions of the Bible, different translations to help me reflect and to read at different times as well.
I quite agree. Let's go back a bit in time for you. You're obviously working for the Bible Society. Christianity, faith is definitely, obviously, and evidently a part of your life. Let's go back in time then. So when did faith really become, I don't know, focused in your life? It's something that was, I need to do something about this. Do you remember that moment?
I do remember that moment. I'm really blessed in the fact I grew up in a Christian family. So my mom and dad, my grandparents, Catholic. I was raised in the Catholic church with my family. I recall vividly like the whole like both sets of grandparents, my whole family going to mass on on a Sunday. And I liked the church, but I never kind of felt like I had that relationship with Christ. And I was really blessed that during my high school years, I played basketball, and I was on the school bus coming back from a basketball game one time, and one of the other girls on the bus said, we were having a conversation. He said, you should come along to this group called FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We meet every Thursday morning in Mr. and Miss Phillips' room. It's a really good time. We talk about the Bible, talk about stuff. I think you would really like it. So I went along, absolutely loved it, went to a retreat. And I had one of those moments where I was just like, whoa, where you're crying and you don't know why you're crying. Your heart feels happy. And I made that commitment. And yeah, FCA was definitely a real blessing on my life and actually on my whole family. I've had my sisters got involved later. My parents later got involved with FCA. We have great family friends that have been involved. So yeah, I think like a lot of people, those teenage years are very tricky, but to have something where you learn more about the Bible, open the Bible, have great friends, it was a real turning point for me.
There are some really great organizations that can just they come along and they can kind of bolster you a little bit, sort of
Mm.
prop you up when you're struggling. You meet people who have got similar passions, interests, thoughts, desires, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you've been through that as well. Oh, it's not just me then. Fine, I'm not that odd. Okay, maybe that's just me, but it's great how we can find these things that really can just build us up enough to take a few more steps. I always talk about the baby steps. Chatting to someone the other night struggling, I was like, just take baby steps. You just need a little step.
Mm.
That's all you need. You don't need to make a big leap or jump towards God. You just need to make a tiny little step. And most of our lives, daily lives, it's little shuffles towards Jesus.
Yeah, and I think as well, having those mentors, having those adults that wanted to foster that relationship and wanted to help us in our faith journey was just so instrumental. And I'm sure that that's why I'm so passionate about young people and want to see them have that same kind of experience. Is that I had those people in my teenage years, and I just want others to have that opportunity as they grow up as well. And I think when we already had a shared passion of sport, and to add in another shared passion and learning about the Bible, it was definitely kind of the right place, the right time. All the puzzle pieces fit together.
So you've grown up FCA, that helps you in your faith. Netball, that's part of your life. Where do we go from there? How did you get to work for the Bible Society today? What's the big gap in the middle?
There's a lot of gap in the middle. So I trained as a television news photographer in the States, and I did that for a number of years. Had a fantastic time traveling, covering some amazing stories. My husband is British, and so that's what's brought me to this country. And when our kids were younger, I was involved with the church, doing different things with the church, and we had a church leader that yeah, he was really inspirational, so another kind of key person in my life. And I became the children and family worker at the church. Then kind of was doing that part-time, because as is in many churches, that's not a full-time role. Took on another job and was kind of doing both jobs at the same time, and that job was kind of coming to an end, and was talking to my church leader and just said, I don't know what that next step is. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. And he had worked for a charity previously, and he said, oh, I really think that I can see you doing something with a charity, using your faith and making a difference that way. And about 2 weeks later, the role came available for a church engagement manager at the Bible Society. So that was 10 years ago that I took that. So for 10 years ago, I was the church engagement manager at the Bible Society for the Southeast. And then during that time, always had that passion for children and young people. And 5 years ago, the role was developed to be children, youth, and family development lead within the Bible Society.
So that's what you're doing today.
That's what I'm doing today. Yeah.
So I was going to ask about the accent. I'm always slightly cautious. Whereabouts in the States were you from then?
Kentucky. Yeah. When I started at Bible Society, I will never forget the women's breakfast, my first speaking appointment for Bible Society, 45-minute talk. I covered everything we did. I was just so informative. I thought I'd covered it all. I got to the end and I said, so any questions? And they said, yes, where are you from? And I thought, you've not listened to anything I've said. You've been concentrating on my accent the whole time. So now when I go in to speak, the first thing I do is just tell people where the accent's from, get that out of the way so that they can concentrate on what I'm saying, not how I'm saying it.
No, I like that. I get that a lot. I always talk about how when I went to Manchester, I mean, I grew up in Wolverhampton in the Midlands, not far from Birmingham. Went up to Manchester. It's not even 2 hours in the car, and yet the young people couldn't understand a single word I was saying. Because I was a very, very broad black country lad, so we speak very fast. Our accent's quite heavy and thick, and the young people were like, "What? Can't hear you. What are you saying?" And then I realised that perhaps a more neutral tone might be better. Because you know what, it didn't matter if I sounded like I used to sound. It mattered that I was able to transmit a message to them, which it sounds like exactly what you've done. So you're working for the Bible Society. Obviously, you're going out and doing different things because we met you at Hand in Hand conference. What sort of things are you doing with them today? Then, how do you actually engage with children and young people?
So I see my role as kind of three tiers. So one is helping to equip and engage children, youth, and family workers, because obviously they are our access into young people. So also working with school chaplains, just anyone that is the kind of gatekeeper into young people, and then equipping and engaging young people themselves, and then working to bring up the voice of children and young people within Bible Society to help change the culture within Bible Society. Regarding children and young people. One of the highlights of my year for over the last 4 years has been working with Youthscape at Satellites, because I get to be with young people, and they inspire me, change me, excite me, and it's just an absolutely amazing time with the young people and getting to know them and having fantastic conversations with them.
Now, Bibles can be, they can be, delicately put, a bit of a prickly issue. You've got people who will hold fast to their translation is the only translation in the world. And I've met people with all sorts of different translation preferences, which is what I find fascinating. That it's like, it's almost a hill they're willing to die on. And I just think, do you know, there's more important stuff in life than that one translation. Because unless you're going to read it in original Hebrew, it's a translation. That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
what we call a translation. I mean, do you know how, because obviously the Bible Society's created a Bible, which I want to talk about in a minute, but how on earth do you start creating a Bible that's accessible for people to read? Because I know you've got a new one, the Everyday Bible. What on earth is the process? I'm genuinely curious. How do you do that?
Well, I think it is an interesting process, but I think one of the most important things that we do with any resource, be it a new Bible or a resource we're doing to help people to better understand, is to go to the people who you're going to be using it and talk to them. So when we first started doing the youth edition that we did several years ago with Youth for Christ, the most important thing we did was go in and do a lot of testing with young people and find out what translation works for you. And the good news version is what came back is the one that was most accessible for them. And so that's what we've gone with. And now we've got the Rainbow, the Youth Family Edition, as well as Dyslexia Friendly, all in that good news version, which has been extremely popular. Now, the new Everyday Faith Bible is in the NRSV updated edition. And that once again went through lots of conversations of people coming together and find out the best edition that would work. And I think that one's the updated edition. It seems to be very popular at the moment. A lot of folks are using that. And the new Everyday Faith Bible is just absolutely amazing. I'm really, really excited about the change that's going to bring in our communities when folks get hold of that.
Now, Bible Society, it's been around for a while. It's a relevant question. It just came to me. How long has Bible Society actually been doing what it did? And is its current role, is that where it started?
Wow. the Bible Society all began way back with our lovely friends at the Clapham sect. And so we like to say, if those that know their history know the lovely story of Mary Jones in Wales, who she saved for 6 years so that she could have her first Bible. So I love the fact that it's a young person who inspired what we do today. So Mary Jones saved for 6 years. She went up, she knocked on the door of Mr. Charles' house, and she's like, I've saved my money. I'm here to buy a Bible. And here's the climax. Oh, he didn't have any in stock. So there's no Amazon to bring an order. He a couple of days later, obviously got her Bible, and he said, if not but for Wales, but for the world. And that the whole Clapham sect, that kind of started what we now have as the Bible Society. And it is that idea about everyone having access, that availability. So that still is part of what we do today.
I love that. I have a real heart and passion for young people and children, particularly children. I love their honesty. I love their heart and passion. I love the innocence which they have, which I would always try and keep and retain. Oh, you can't retain the innocence forever. Yeah, but I'm going to do my best to keep it as long as we possibly can. That's a good thing to do. I also love that Jesus always used children throughout
Yeah.
scripture. There's one where what's one of my favorites? Jesus quoted the Psalms, a psalm that the religious leaders would have known, and basically he's saying, "This is who I'm speaking through," and that would have been really offensive to them, because well, you can't say that. Well, Jesus did, so obviously that's okay. But the Bible, it changes lives in ways that are almost unimaginable, because it is such a powerful book. Even if you look at the fact that Psalm 118 in the middle is in the middle, and it's the longest one. And how does that all work? It's Psalm 119. How does that all work? And yet people have linked all the bits of the Bible, and you've got prophecies coming true. As a book, it's fairly impressive. As an actual testament from God, it blows my mind as I've looked into some of the statistics behind some of the prophecies written thousands of years ago. Oh, it's come true.
Yeah, it is an amazing book. I love a story from this past summer at Satellites. I'll have to go back to Satellites again. And we gifted every young person, every leader that came, Matthew's Gospel, because we wanted to get the Bible into their hands. And each morning we have an orbit session, where we open the Bible and dive into the Bible. And each day we were having a reading from Matthew, and it was wonderful. We had a number of different venues you could go to kind of get different ways of opening and having your Bible study. We had some groups that just kind of did their own pop-up Bible study, which was amazing. So the whole week we're seeing kids walk around with their Matthew's Gospel, reading it. It was fantastic. But one day we had a young person who was lost, which obviously we're going to have safeguarding, comes into effect. All the proper procedures were followed. Let me get that out there first of all to say, we had the alerts come through for those of us on team on our phones, what's going on. And the best part of this story is that this young person was found sitting under a tree. He had missed dinner, from what I'm told. And when they found him, he said, "I was just reading that Matthew book you gave me." And that, to me, just the way he put that's not a young person who regularly had been reading the Bible, that Matthew book. But supposedly he had been sitting under that tree for 2.5 hours reading that Matthew book. So I think, the Bible does amazing things for people. And when they're given a chance to sit and read the word, amazing things can happen.
I love what that young person did. I imagine the adults were probably in freak out mode, but I love that they found him under a tree reading the Bible,
I
because it's the
know.
most natural thing in the world.
It is. It's just such a beautiful image. And I remember people, because we had gifted the Bibles, people were coming up to me and like, "Have you heard the story? Have you heard about the kid?" And they were a bit worried it was become some, urban legend, that nothing actually didn't happen. But everyone's like, this actually did happen. And, my hope and prayer is that young person kept reading Matthew's Gospel, and now has maybe found Mark and Luke and John, and there's been people to disciple him along the way, because that's so important, because we can hand out Bibles, but so important right now to have people walking alongside those young people like I had when I was a teenager, to help them to open up the word, to help them answer those questions that they might have, and just to see that the word grow in them, and then change their lives, and then that changed their communities as well.
I love that story. My head immediately, of course, goes to everyone saying, "Where's Jesus gone? Where's he gone? The
Exactly.
parents have lost him, and they find him in a temple. Where else
Exactly.
was I going to be? I can hear that with a bit of a Brummy accent. Where else was I going to be? Seriously, why were you worried? I mean, I'm glad the adults were looking, but it just when you spend time with Jesus, it transforms everything in the most beautiful of ways.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of us have kind of gotten away from that spending time with Jesus. We're busy, and our lives are busy. And oh, how do we fit this in? One of the things at Hand in Hand that was really quite shocking, and some of the leaders have thanked me for it, is I asked the question in my seminar, how much time are you spending reading the Bible, not preparing for what you're doing on Sunday? And you could just see these faces across the room change and just think, oh, wow, she's really challenged us now. Because as leaders, as you know, we all have busy lives and schedules. That daily Bible time can be something that gets pushed to the side. And it's so important for us to spend time with Jesus, spend time reading his word, spend time reflecting upon it. And hopefully now as we enter Lent, that's something that maybe people want to pick up and do. Bible Society do have a resource for you if you want to check out our website. But yeah, just spending time with the Bible. And, when we have things like beginning of the year, beginning of Lent, Advent, different times in our calendar, really good times if we've kind of fallen out of the habit to pick those up again.
Now, you've just opened up the idea that there's resources on the Bible Society. It's not just about the Bible. And you've shared quite a few times, it's about helping people to engage with this amazing book. So, therefore, what is it that Bible Society actually do have as resources to enable people to get into the Bible better?
Well, one of our key flagship resources that I really hope people in churches and even in your friendship groups do is what we call the Bible course, and we've got a brand new edition that we released last year. So even if you've done the Bible course previously, it's great to have a look at it now because we have kind of revamped it. We've added some extra speakers into it, folks that have done it in the past. We just had Andrew Ollerton who presented it, but we've added some extra folks into it. It's an 8-session course. It's a video-based course. All of the videos are free to download on our website. There is a guidebook that goes alongside it to kind of help you through. One of the best things about it that people rave about is our storyline that kind of helps people understand how the Bible all fits together. I have run it with youth. I have run it with adults who have been in the church for 40 years. I've run it with new Christians. Everyone gets something from this course. It really is a course that does a really good job of kind of meeting you where you are and helping you to understand the Bible better. And the more we understand it, the more we want to read it. So that's one of our flagship resources that I highly recommend folks to have a look at.
Fab, what else can you recommend?
Well, like I said, the Everyday Faith Bible is one of our new Bibles, but it's also a really good resource as well because we've added a lot of extra content into the Bible itself. We have a number of folks across the country who have written for it. The Bible's been done in partnership with our friends at LICC. And so when I say the content is rich, I'm not talking about money. I am talking about some of the best writers that we have added to this Bible. And I did just one of the extra bits in it with some of my colleagues. And I think we probably could have spent another week just diving over that one extra bit. It just had so much content in it. We've also added in our head, heart, and hands element. And that's one of the ways that Bible Society explains Bible confidence is how it feels in our head, how we feel in our heart, and how we use our hands with what we read. So there's a lot of those extra bits within the Bible itself. So it's a really, really, it's a fantastic Bible, but a fantastic resource as well.
It seems like the most natural question to ask you now. What do you have a favorite piece of scripture that you really love more than the rest? Which is always a dangerous question to ask.
That is a dangerous question. It is so hard because, like I said earlier, it does kind of change with the seasons and kind of change, where we are. After we had done Matthew's Gospel at Satellites, I would have said Matthew's Gospel was my favorite, my favorite bit. But I think the Psalms they're just so amazing. And I think it's something I do go back to a lot. So I would say right here, right now, my answer would be the Psalms. But in 2 weeks' time, I could be back at Esther again. So, it's hard to say.
I remember when I became a Christian at 7, and someone did write out the words from Isaiah 43, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you by name, you are mine." And they put my name into it, and it just somehow
Mm.
transformed and made it so much more personal to me as a piece of scripture. And the thing was, because it's the first couple of verses of Isaiah 43, I never got through the rest of it. I'd read the Bible, perhaps I'd read Isaiah 42, Isaiah 44, and then one day I suddenly thought, hey, there's a few more verses after this. I'd never got into them. I always got stuck at the first 2 or 3 verses. That's what I'd been written out to read for
Mm.
20 years, probably. I don't know. I just never got past it. And then I started reading past it and thinking, some good stuff in here. I've got to keep reading. And it is that, but that's the Bible, isn't it? When you start to read, you discover there's more and more and more. And you never, ever, ever find the top of the pile of beautiful richness and resources.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for people that have their favorite bits and can quote, every bit, from some of their favorite bits. I've never been good with remembering numbers and stuff like that, but I do think that as we change, it is good. My favorite book that I had, outside the Bible has changed over the years. So it's only natural that my favorite book inside the Bible would change with time as well.
You're in good company. That's the only one I can actually reference specifically with the book chapter piece. That can't do it in anything else. That's your lot. Only because I've been saying it for more than 40 years. Right, Kristin, if people want to get in touch with the Bible Society, they're interested in some of the resources, and also they're sitting thinking, what satellites? Should we ask that one first? What satellites, and how can people access the resources of Bible Society?
Satellites is an amazing event that takes place at Shepton Mallet for a week. We have amazing speakers come. It's a Youthscape event that they put on, and Bible Society has just been really privileged for the last 4 years to be part of it and to take part in it. It caters for so many different young people. So if you're new to faith, if you're someone that's on the periphery, if you're not really sure, if you've just kind of come along with mates, or if you made the commitment to be a Christian, years ago, Satellites works for you. And there's loads of activities. There's speakers that you go and see. So definitely speak to get youth leaders to check it out, folks to go to the Youthscape website, or just pop in Satellites into your browser, and I'm sure you can find out more. And then Bible Society, really easy. Just put in biblesociety.org.uk, and we have resources tab. We have a shop tab. We have all the stuff that you can find on our website that can help you to go deeper with your relationship with the Bible, or can just on the shop, there's lots of different Bibles for you to purchase.
Let me just change tack 1 second. If somebody's thinking, hey, the Bible, it's big. It's a big old book. I'm never going to read it all. So what's the point in trying? How would you encourage someone to get over, I guess, the fear of, what do I do with this thing? Okay, we can come to the website and we can do that. But how would you encourage someone just to start picking up a Bible and reading when perhaps they're not great at reading, or perhaps they're just nervous thinking, am I going to read the wrong bit first? And is there an order to this? And how would you encourage people to pick up a Bible and start reading?
That's a great question. And I always am really surprised and kind of amazed with the number of people who pick up the Bible and they just start reading at the first page, which that makes sense. That's how we read books, but I think it's really important to remember to folks that have never picked up the Bible before that the Bible is just one big library. It's, the Bible itself is a library full of different books in it. And I would not walk into my local library and pick the first book off the shelf and just start reading it. I'm going to go to that section, which I'm a little bit familiar with, or that kind of looks like it would be a bit fun for me to read. And I would encourage folks to do that with the Bible. So I normally recommend folks that are new to the Bible to start with the Gospels. So that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Go to those, read through those, because you may have heard some of those stories before. Those stories are something you might have heard and opened the book assembly when you were a kid, or some church service that you visited. You might have heard one of the gospel readings before. So I usually recommend folks start with the Gospels. I had someone recently that I recommend that they start with Matthew, and they came back and said, okay, I've read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. What do I do next? Which is fantastic. Genesis can be really tough. So those folks that start at the very beginning of the Bible and start reading all the way through, well done if you make it through. But a lot of times there's lots of names in Genesis, and that's puts people off automatically. But also get someone else, willing to chat to other people about what you're reading as well. And that can be someone in the church, that can be a friend. Bible Society have a really good resource that's helpful. It's called the Bible Book Club. So we have every book of the Bible on our website. So if you're reading Matthew right now, you can go scroll down to find Matthew in the Bible Book Club, and it'll give you just a few prompts and questions to kind of, what should I look out for? What am I going to read? Because a lot of times when we read the Bible, and I can put my hand up to this as well, that I read it and then I think, what did I just read? Like, what was that? So being able to kind of have some prompts and think, okay, what is this actually telling me? What do I need to take from this can be really, really helpful when you're reading the Bible as well.
Kristin, just give us the website one more time as we come to a finish, so people know where to come and find all the resources you've got.
That's biblesociety.org.uk.
Kristin of the Bible Society, great to meet you again after meeting you at hand in hand. Thank you for your patience then and today. And thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
The February edition of Pure Media, the magazine, features some amazing chat with our Atlantic roots. This truly lovely and down-to-earth folk duo sit down with us to talk music, life, faith and travel. Martin Bateman sits down with us too to talk about Ambassadors football. He talks about how he came to be where he is today. If you love football, you'll love this. If you love life, you'll love it even more. With a 6-month subscription to the UK costing just 48 quid, including postage, head over to puremediathemagazine.com and you'll be properly sorted with this amazing magazine arriving at your door to brighten your day and your world. Yes, it really is that good. We also have subscriptions available for the US and more, so go check it out now. With no AI, this amazing magazine is made by real people for real people. Pick up yourself a copy. You won't want to put it down. Nobody does. We are always on point and always in print at www.puremediathemagazine.com.